More big storms are coming to the United States with severe weather throughout the rest of this week into the weekend. Damaging winds, large to very large hail, and tornadoes will be possible with the storms, along with torrential downpours, which could cause some flash flooding. So make sure we're mindful of that. We're going to also look ahead to the major heat wave that continues to rumble across the United States and the tropical weather update at the end of the video. You know what to do if you're here. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We do daily weather breakdowns on this channel. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, and share it with a friend, family member on social media. Both of those things, the likes and the shares, help to get this vital information passed along to more and more people. And if you have any comments, questions, and concerns, of course, jot that down in the comments section down below this video. We are here all day, 24/7, to answer any and all comments, questions, concerns that you do have. We have a slight risk of severe weather today across eastern Wyoming, down here into Colorado, southwest South Dakota, the Panhandle, and west Nebraska, and northwestern Kansas. That is a 2 out of 5 on the risk scale. Marginal risk, 1 out of 5, extending across the Midwest, southern Great Lakes, northern Ohio Valley, all the way up into the interior sections of the Northeast, all the way to Maine. So isolated to scattered severe coverage of storms will be possible. Damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour will be possible, especially here in yellow, covering areas from Wyoming into eastern Wyoming, that is, into northeastern Colorado, southwestern South Dakota, western and portions of the Panhandle of Nebraska, and northwestern Kansas. In addition to some potentially significant hail in the hatched risk here from Cheyenne, Wyoming, down toward Denver. Could be seeing up to baseball-size hail this afternoon and evening. That could do some significant damage to any vehicles that are left out of any garages or anything like that. And we have a small but non-zero tornado chance. We had in the green here from Cheyenne down toward Denver and areas in the Panhandle of Nebraska, southwestern portions of South Dakota. That is a 2% chance of tornadoes. That is within a 25-mile radius of any given point in or around that area. So looking here at the central view of the United States here at noon, we got some showers, a few rumbles of thunder across the central plains, nosing its way up there into Iowa and Wisconsin into the Midwest. As we go into the middle of this afternoon, we're going to start to see those storms percolate in an isolated to scattered coverage. So not everybody will see these storms, but where those stronger storm cells pop up, of course, we could be seeing threats of up to 70 mile per hour winds. Hail, baseball-sized hail will be most probable here across eastern Wyoming, down into Colorado and into the Panhandle of Nebraska, with those supercells that develop starting about 3 o'clock this afternoon. And going into the dinner time frame, those supercells will migrate eastward into Nebraska there, into western Nebraska, including the Nebraska Panhandle, southwestern portions of South Dakota. Additional isolated and widely scattered storm coverage here across Iowa, northern Missouri, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and toward Lake Michigan. We could have a couple of severe storms over there as well, heading into the early evening hours, 5, 6, 7 o'clock. Locally heavy downpours will accompany a lot of these storms. There's a lot of moisture here, and you can see that conveyor belt of storms over top that ridge. That's the ring of fire pattern here, and that means we're just going to see repeated rounds of showers and storms going up into your early morning hours on Wednesday. In fact, Wednesday morning at daybreak, it looks like the most widespread storms will be from eastern South Dakota into eastern Nebraska through central Iowa and northwestern Illinois, and that could be accompanied by some locally heavy downpours. When it's all said and done, by tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., there will be areas that miss out on the rainfall altogether, but there will be other areas that see potentially a few inches of rain, and we're talking 3, 4, 5 inches if you see repeated rounds of storm cells that produce very heavy rainfall. And this, of course, could lead to the threat for some flash flooding out there, so make sure you're mindful of that. Never drive on flooded roadways, low-lying and poor drainage areas such as ditches, farm fields that are low-lying, creeks and streams, even area tributary rivers may start to rise with the heavy rainfall out there. Looking here at the east, it looks like more of an isolated storm coverage across the southern Great Lakes, northern Ohio Valley into the interior sections of the Northeast, including parts of New England here. It looks like very isolated activity. A lot less people are going to see storm coverage, probably about 30% coverage here. 70% of us, if not 80% of us, will remain dry as we go through the rest of the afternoon and evening over here, the further east that you go. And the convective footprint, you don't see a lot of very heavy rainfall here in the east. So if you get under one of those, of course you could see an inch of rain. That's if you get under a storm. If you don't, well then obviously you'll remain bone dry. through the early morning hours on Wednesday. More severe weather is on tap Wednesday on June 25th here, and we are 6 months away from Christmas at this point, but it's definitely hot, right? We're seeing slight risk of severe weather in the Carolinas, another slight risk down here in southern Alabama, southwest Georgia, and northwest Florida. And then a broad brush marginal risk, 1 out of 5 up there across the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, for example. And this is mainly for damaging winds, right? These gusty thunderstorms, they pop up in the afternoon, they pop up in the evening, and then once the sun sets, they start to wind down. So a gusty thunderstorm threat there. Hail is a low threat. It's a secondary threat, because when you get so hot at the surface, we have a warm layer aloft underneath a ridge of high pressure, and that limits the hail growth, especially down here in the southeast, also in the high plains, but there still could be some quarter-size hail. Thankfully, the tornado threat tomorrow is less than 2%, so a very, very low tornado risk overall, just some gusty thunderstorms. So here is 7 a.m. on Wednesday in the central U.S. view. You can see there is a cluster of showers and heavy thunderstorms moving across the Midwest there. Those will dwindle, but they'll continue to produce some heavy rainfall across Minnesota, Iowa, into Wisconsin as we go into the afternoon. Additional storms will pop up here late afternoon tomorrow, again after 3 o'clock. These will pose a risk for mainly gusty thunderstorms with up to 70-mile-per-hour winds, some hail, but the tornado threat will remain low. It'll be a lot of heavy downpours out there, and then that'll carry over into Thursday morning. Looking here at the east, robust thunderstorms developing again after the noon hour across a large chunk of the eastern U.S., most favored in the Carolinas, down into Georgia, southern portions of Alabama, and northwest Florida. These are the gusty thunderstorms that could produce those microbursts, right? Those winds that go straight down from a thunderstorm and fan out in all directions. Those can produce some significant damage. So that's something we're watching in Columbia, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Atlanta, down here into areas of Jacksonville, for example, Wilmington, all the way back to Panama City, something we're watching as we go into tomorrow afternoon and evening, and then that will clear out as we go and lose the instability into Thursday morning. Speaking of Thursday, June 26th, another marginal risk of severe weather, Kansas City, Chicago, Milwaukee, and Des Moines, all included, Grand Rapids as well, and then we have another marginal risk from near Washington, D.C. through Richmond and Roanoke, all the way back here into Raleigh, Columbia, Asheville, Chattanooga, Atlanta, and getting into the Birmingham and Montgomery areas, the Panama City, isolated severe coverage of storms as we go into Thursday, and it's going to be 2 main areas, right? We're going to have an area in the Midwest where we have that ring of fire over top of the ridge. Maybe some organized storms in Iowa as we go into tomorrow, or into Thursday evening rather, and those could produce some pretty heavy rainfall and some severe weather, mainly gusty thunderstorms. The hail and tornado risk should remain low, and then that will continue down here into the southeast as well underneath of the ridge. Speaking of the ridge, it's in the east today, really peaking in intensity, and over top of that, we're going to have some very strong winds in the jet stream, and that is going to lead to those disturbances that produce those mesoscale days of severe weather leading up into early July. A lot of instability. The reservoir of instability in storm energy is in no short supply, and that takes us all the way through the 1st of July. Eventually, the ridge will start to break down from north to south, and that should put to bed at least the organized severe weather potential. Here on Friday, June 27th, late week, we're watching for another mesoscale day of some severe weather up here across the Midwest. Mesoscale means kind of a smaller storm environment. We're mainly looking at isolated, scattered storm coverage. That continues into Saturday on the 28th, Sunday the 29th, and early next week on Monday and Tuesday as well. So we're just going to continue to watch that fester across the Midwest. Going through July 1st, we're seeing above average precipitation over top that ridge into the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and a lot drier underneath that ridge, but not bone dry. We're going to see some afternoon pop-up showers and storms. And then as we go into the first week of July, as that ridge begins to break down, that thunderstorm and cluster threat will start to shift further to the south into the southern plains and the southeast, and drenching thunderstorms will be possible into the first week of July down there. Let's talk about the heat. We got a big ridge of high pressure, and there's no short supply of heat back into the 90s, widespread record highs across the New England coastline, down into the eastern Ohio Valley, mid-Atlantic, southeast as we go into today. There's the boundary setting up in the Midwest. If you're in the cool side of that, we're in the 70s in the Dakotas, into Minnesota and Wisconsin. It's still muggy though. And then as we go into Wednesday, we see a return of some 90s trying to poke up there into Iowa and Nebraska. That'll continue on a daily basis through the rest of the week. We will be warming up though late this week on Friday, and especially the upcoming weekend. So enjoy the 70s in the upper Midwest while you have them, because we're going to be warming up into the upper 80s, low 90s 90s, maybe mid 90s again by Saturday and Sunday. And look at Phoenix. By the time we get to early next week, Monday, June 30th, 112 in Phoenix, pushing 122 in Death Valley. So very hot out there. And we're not getting much relief at night either. Our low temperatures are in the 60s and 70s. So even during the day where it's very hot, you want to hydrate, obviously, find frequent breaks in the shade or an air-conditioned room, especially if you do work outdoors or if you spend a lot of time outdoors. But even at night, there's not much relief as those temperatures are slow to drop off, and that's why our lows are into the 70s, mainly on a daily basis through Monday, June 30th. Let's talk about the tropics. We have a new name and the first name in the Atlantic Ocean as Andrea has formed in the North Atlantic. This is moving away from North America. This is what we call a fish storm, my friends, and this is not going to produce anything in the United States, really fizzling over the next couple of days. Then we look here at the East Pacific. There is a 70% chance of a tropical storm or hurricane developing over the next 7 days. This is most favored this upcoming weekend. So we look back here and you can see this is your vorticity signature, and the brighter the color, the more spin there is in the atmosphere. That won't start to develop until about Saturday, June 28th. That's where we can start to see Flossie develop, and this is going to develop potentially into a formidable tropical storm, if not a low grade, category 1 or 2 hurricane. But this could spread some hefty moisture up into western Mexico, maybe taking a run at the desert Southwest. It's a little bit uncertain right now how far north some of that moisture from Flossie will go. It just depends on where it develops and how far to the west or east this goes from Mexico. So we're going to keep an eye on the moisture trajectory from Flossie that could develop this weekend, and that could spread some moisture up just in time for the 4th of July holiday up into the Four Corners region. So that is something we're keeping an eye on. And of course, before we go, here's the fire weather risk for today, elevated across southern portions of Wyoming, western Colorado, parts of Utah, into portions of north central Arizona. Just be mindful that if any fires are started out here, it could start to spread very quickly. So there's an elevated wildfire risk out there from southern Wyoming to north central Arizona. That continues through late tonight. Thank you all for watching. You know what to do. Subscribe to the channel. Daily weather breakdowns right here on Weather on the Go. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, and share it with a friend, family member on social media. Comment and down below any comments you may have, questions, concerns. We're here all 24/7 to answer any and all questions, comments, and concerns you have. Thank you all again for watching. Thank you all for the support, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday out there.